sunlight, sometimes the shadow ends. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. What you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. Everybody's been there, everybody's been stared down by the enemy, falling for the fear and done disappearing. Bow down to the mighty. Don't run, stop holding your tongue. Maybe there's a way out of this cage where you live. Maybe one of these days you could let the light in. Show me how big your brave is. Say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. What you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. I want to see you be brave. I want to see you. I want to see you. I want to see you. I want to see you be brave. And since your history of silence won't do you any good, did you think it would? Let your words be anything but empty. Why don't you tell them the truth? Say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be. Say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. I want to see you be brave. I want to see you be brave.
Thank you to Jane Ann Barker. That was absolutely fabulous. She is a junior at John Champ High School in South Riding, and we were so lucky to find her and for her to share her gifts with us today. So I want to welcome everyone. I'm Anne Marie Ames. I'm the associate producer of today's show. And we're all nervous backstage, but we can feel the love that's in the audience today from all of you. So we want to thank you all for coming. So now, you're probably expecting me to say, turn off your phones, put them away, we don't want to hear anything. Well, actually, we're changing things up. We want everybody to take out their phones, because social media is what made This Is My Brave happen today. Jen and I are seeing 2,000 visits to our Facebook pages each week. We have 850 visits to the YouTube video that we did. And the only way we're going to make this movement happen is if we keep spreading the word. And that's what our supporters are all about. Sharing stories and being brave. So take out your phone. And if you have a Twitter or an Instagram account, our hashtag is This Is My Brave. We're very creative in that. So take a picture, do whatever that thing is where you say where you are. I'm not sure how to do that one. We have teenagers who've been helping us. So we were doing some very creative selfies backstage, thanks to our young women with us today. And also after the show, some of you may have noticed there's a banner. It's called a Step and Repeat, I just learned. They use them on red carpet, so we thought, why not? And what we'd like you to do after the show is take pictures of yourselves to show that you were here, or people that you know from the cast or that you wanted to meet from the cast that you felt moved by. And then, again, use Instagram, hashtag This Is My Brave. Okay. So 10 months ago, I met a young woman at a party, a jewelry party. My neighbor Karen Ferrandino, who's here today helping out, thanks Karen, was launching her jewelry line, Simply Om, and I'll give a plug. It's really beautiful jewelry. It's Simply OM is the name, .com. So her pieces are made by artisans in socially and economically oppressed areas around the world, and she has been very helpful to us as some of our Kickstarter rewards. Some of you got the necklaces that she sells, and she donated them for the Kickstarter. So that day I was feeling quite depressed, as I do, and really didn't want to go to the party, but I wanted to support Karen, so I dragged my depressed body out of my house, and I only had to go 50 feet. She's across the street. But I believe that the universe has a way of putting you in the place you need to be when you need to be there. And I know now I needed to be there. That's the night I met Jen. And my life has not been the same since. It's been a roller coaster, in fact. She shared her vision of This Is My Brave with me. It didn't have a name yet. That came later. But I loved what she was saying, and I felt the same way. And we connected. So in a nutshell, Jen knew that sharing her story of being diagnosed with bipolar made her feel empowered and helped others to see they weren't alone. She wanted to share that feeling and inspire others to do the same. There's such a primal high when you are able to be your authentic self with those around you. I know many of you feel that. When I tell people about my struggles of depression, I hear me too, or yes, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my son, my daughter. When 1 in 20 of Americans have a mental illness, invariably anybody that you share your story with is going to understand and have a connection. I'd wager a bet that the stats in this audience today are a little bit higher. So within a month, being the recruiter and mighty force that Jen is, she had me go from, sure, I know marketing communications, that'd be great, happy to help you with some PR and stuff, to I'm now co-founder and associate producer of This Is My Brave. So we had named it by then. So for the last 10 months, we have been pregnant, so to speak, with our baby. And it really does take 10 months because a full-term baby is 40 weeks. That's 10 months, and I've had 3 of them, so I know. Many of you have been with us since we announced we were pregnant, and others have joined along the way. And we're thankful for everyone's support and encouragement, cheering us on in so many different ways. Well, today is her birthday. Jen's vision is being born, much like a baby, vulnerable, pure, and full of love. And as Brene Brown, who I love, writes in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, because I am, we are wired to be brave. That's why we never feel more alive than when we are being courageous. We have 14 people who answered when we asked, are you ready to be brave? Jen and I simply created the space for them to be courageous. None of them are actors. Many of them are speaking about their mental illness and experiences for the first time today. They're just like you and me. Today's show is about them and their courage to share with you a part of themselves. So we start today's birthday celebration with Heather Coleman. Heather was born and raised in the Green Mountain state of Vermont, and after graduating from Castleton State College with a bachelor's degree in business administration and $500 to her name, she packed up all of her belongings and moved to Silver Spring, Maryland. Now that's brave. She's married with 2 children, Darius and Lily, and Heather works full-time as a government consultant in marketing communications. She's been very helpful. When she's not working, she enjoys social media, photography, traveling, and writing. Heather's going to read her essay today entitled Naked.
The ability to bear our sufferings begins by bearing our souls. This is my brave. I'm running frantically, all alone on the side of the road, mind racing, people staring, cars stopping, world ending. On a bridge, I'm completely naked. You see, I thought I had to save the world by being baptized in the Anacostia River, of all places. I started by driving my car more than 30 miles on the D.C. Beltway during rush hour, completely delusional, calling my husband and my parents on my cell phone, not knowing I was in the midst of a psychotic episode. I truly can't imagine the immense fear they must have felt in those moments, not knowing what was happening to me. I finally stopped my car on a bridge on I-295 near the D.C. line, calmly got out, took my shirt up over my head, pulled my pants down over my legs, moved on to my remaining clothes, socks, shoes, bra, and underwear. In a matter of moments, I was running naked in front of hundreds of strangers passing me by. Who was this woman? Helpless, vulnerable, unpredictable, flashes of memories mixed with utter darkness. Looking back on that day is pretty surreal because I'm a modest person, but reality abandoned me and postpartum psychosis reared its ugly head. My whole world came crashing down within a matter of a few hours. This was my startling introduction to mental illness. Diagnosis, bipolar disorder. It's taken years of soul searching for me to bear that truth. I came into this world perfectly undisguised, defenseless, and naked, and I almost went out the exact same way. Instead, I've started on a journey, and each time I tell this story, I remove the layers. I bare my soul. I'm naked again. That day, I was ready to save the world with the greatest of sacrifices, my own life. I begged two strangers on the bridge to kill me, please. I've listened to the 911 calls from those tragic moments, my own voice playing in stark contrast to the one I thought I knew for 32 years. My husband doesn't care to listen. He doesn't need to go back there. But I'm drawn to it. Again and again, I listen. What I hear is fear. Fear of my boss, fear of failure, fear of not being perfect, fear of myself, fear of repeating parts of my childhood with my own children, and my greatest fear of all, dying. But I was willing to face even that fear that day in order to save the world. Somehow, the world saved me. 4 Good Samaritans stopped their cars to call for help. They showed the purest kind of love for a fellow human being. And as amazing as that help was, it was not the same at the hospital. Fully restrained and still, my head was slammed against the gurney for a CAT scan. I screamed profanities at the top of my lungs until the second round of Haldol took effect. My husband paced in the waiting room, not sure if I would ever return to him. 5 years since then without an incident, but still, I can't even say when I've had a bad day, or else my friends and family are going to worry that I'll go crazy. Man, I hate that word. But anyway, where the hell is our PSA? It starts with me and with you. It starts with raising our voices to end the stigma. Today, I've asked each of you to imagine me bare, naked, and raw to show you my brave. Give me a few more minutes, and you'll want to strip down too. Carefully remove the masks you've been wearing. I need to know who you really are. I need to know if you've been through the same battles, if you bear the same scars, if you too have overcome the flames to rise from the ashes even stronger than before. The only way out of this darkness is to shine a light on our stories. Each time I open up just a little bit more, my empowerment grows. I use my voice to honor those that aren't able to use theirs. And if I connect with even a single person today, it will all be worth it. I know if I expose my vulnerabilities, your truths will be shown to me. Through honesty, love, and understanding, this room will become one today. We need to go out there and share this love with the world around us. It's time to break down the barriers that hold us back from being our true selves. Stop being marginalized and seek understanding. Finally, I must ask each of you, how many other people have seen you're naked, you're brave?
Thank you so much. Megan Barnes lives in Crystal City with her husband Isaac and son Michael. I met Megan through her advocacy work. She was Mrs. District of Columbia 2013. Her platform was on raising awareness of mental health issues. As someone who experienced and conquered debilitating anxiety, panic attacks, and agoraphobia, Megan has made it part of her life mission to share her story with women all over the world, to give them hope and let them know that they are not alone. She believes that a critical step to recovery is support. She is the founder of Anxiety Angel and hosts a monthly peer support group in the DC metro area. Megan will read Putting a Name to My Pain.
As far back as I can remember, I've always been anxious, scared, and worried. I was scared to be home alone. I was scared to stay in the car by myself when my parents would run into the grocery store. I remember in elementary school making my mom walk me all the way into my classroom because I didn't want to be left alone. I remember my stomach getting so upset during class that my mom requested that my school allow me to keep saltine crackers in my locker to settle my stomach. I grew up as the only girl in a house full of boys. I grew up in a low-income, biracial household. We were definitely poor. I went to school without lunch some days. I always envied the other girls in school that had all the nice clothes and shoes, but I kept myself busy and out of trouble by becoming an athlete. After high school, I didn't go to college, although I look back and wonder sometimes what happened to me. I was an all-state basketball player, but lacked the motivation and support to move to the next level. I ended up getting pregnant at 19 and had my son Michael at 20. I recall sitting in the delivery room the evening after Michael was born and just crying uncontrollably. For weeks after I had my son, I recall still feeling this way. I think my mom was my saving grace at that time. Anytime I felt overwhelmed, she was there to step in and comfort me. My level of anxiety and worry and fear definitely was escalated by the birth of my son. At the age of 25, I experienced my first panic attack. I was sitting at work, and all of a sudden, I started to feel dizzy, lightheaded, and numb. Then my heart started to beat uncontrollably. I had no idea what was going on. My first reaction was to jump up from my desk. I walked over to my coworker and asked him to call 911. When 911 arrived, they took my vitals and transported me to the emergency room. I spent 3 hours in the ER and was released and told, all things check out clear, you're free to go. I was never told what could possibly be the culprit of me feeling this way. The word anxiety was never mentioned. That was the story of my life from July 2008 until 2010. I took countless trips to the emergency room, doctors, specialists. I got blood work, scans, and was even hooked up to a heart monitor for days. All the tests came back clear. Everyone told me I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was confused more than ever. How could I be fine? I was hurting. I was in pain. I was suffering every day. I feared the things in my life that I used to enjoy doing. I became agoraphobic and was scared to leave my house. Not only was I scared to leave, but I was scared to stay. I was scared to drive my car, ride the train, go grocery shopping. The everyday tasks that I used to do suddenly became the most difficult tasks. For From the time I opened my eyes every morning to the time I closed them to go to sleep, I lived in fear. I would force myself to go to work, despite all of my anxiety. I would have anywhere from 3 to 5 full-blown panic attacks at work on any given day. I would end my day curled up, sitting in the shower, just praying and hoping that tomorrow this would all be over, that this horrible, horrible nightmare would be over, because I can't stand the pain and I can't see past the moment. All I could see is what my life had been and feels like it always will be. To this day, I am shocked that not one doctor suggested I may have anxiety. During one visit to the ER, my husband suggested to the doctor that it might be anxiety. The doctor said point blank, no. If it was, then something would have triggered it. She would not have been just sitting there and it come out of the blue. I think looking back to that day, I realized how impactful that one statement from the doctor was. I wouldn't even entertain the fact that I could possibly have anxiety because the doctor told me no. And I wonder if I could have avoided so much heartache and pain if I was told, yes, maybe you do have anxiety, maybe you should see a therapist. So how did I get diagnosed with anxiety? I diagnosed myself. My husband and I spent many, many hours researching my symptoms to get to the bottom of it. We found the I in anxiety, the I in panic, and the I in agoraphobia. I went to my primary doctor and told her all the pain and suffering I was in was indeed anxiety. I asked her, why didn't anyone tell me that this is what it could be? She really didn't have an answer, but she ended up agreeing with me and prescribing me Lexapro and Xanax. Although I feared the pills, I eventually ended up taking Xanax to calm me enough so I could focus on getting better and focus on myself. Although I am med-free today, those pills helped me get through the worst period of my life, and I'm so grateful for them. You know, people are so quick to judge and tell you whether or not medicine is needed for mental illness. But why are they not quick to judge a cancer patient with their chemo, a heart disease patient with their meds, or a diabetic with their insulin? Mental illness and mental disorders should be treated with as much care and concern as people struggling with any other disorder. So standing here today, I can tell you I'm a much stronger person. I've conquered my anxiety. I still have my bad days, but I've gone from a constant worrier to a warrior fighting to help erase the stigma so commonly associated with mental health disorders. I run a local support group for women suffering with anxiety and panic disorders. I'm an ambassador for Mental Health America. I'm a founder of Anxiety Angel, which is dedicated to helping women with anxiety. I even won the title of Mrs. DC America 2013, and I stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people at Mrs. America promoting my mental health platform. I've learned to be happy, to live a full life, to live a life of service, to help other women that are struggling with the same thing that held me down for so many years, the same thing that had a grip on my life and turned me into someone I never wanted to be. But the most important thing I can tell you today is that I'm still here. I did not end my life, and I did not find the I in suicide. There are so many times I told myself, I just don't know if I can live like this for the rest of my life. Yet I am standing here today to tell you that despite all the pain, all the physical and emotional pain, that I chose life. And I want to tell each and every one of you out there that may be struggling with mental health issues, there are people who care for you. You may feel as if no one understands, but there are people who care and want to help you. Don't lose hope. Please stay alive.
Thank you, Megan. You are a warrior. Up next is Katie Klein, who's a junior at Parkview High School in Virginia. She's a student and an athlete and served as class president last year. Katie has suffered through depression almost all her life, peaking in her freshman year of high school when she was admitted to Dominion Mental Hospital for treatment. Although Katie continues to struggle, she's empowered to share her story with those around her and to continue to grow stronger and more happy. just to show you what a phenomenal writer she is. We absolutely love the poem that she sent to us, and she's been rehearsing with it over the last 6 months. Yesterday, she decided she wasn't happy with what she had written, and she rewrote it and sent it to me at midnight last night. You will not believe what this young girl was able to write. We left rehearsal at 8 last night, so in 4 hours, these are the words that she wants to share with you today. Her poem is entitled, My Ground is Molasses.
Have you ever seen the last bright ember in a fire? When the flames have died out and there is nothing there but one sparkling spot of orange fighting to hold its own while being smothered by nothing but gray, lifeless ash? That is me. I often think back to the bleak winter days of 2 years ago when I was almost extinguished. I remember sitting in the linoleum halls of a psych ward feeling nothing and everything at once. But one feeling went above all the rest. I felt it from the arch of my foot to my temples, and that feeling was guilt. At 15, I had caused my family more pain than I could ever imagine. I had made my mother find me in my garage, sobbing, screaming, and silent all at once. It was my mother who had to watch burgundy water swirl down the drain in our bathroom sink as she cleaned off what I had done to myself. It was my father who had to watch his baby girl lie in bed day after day after day, wishing she could lie in the ground forever. It was my brother that was placed on the back burner while my parents were consumed with the grief of their almost gone daughter. It was my grandma who had to relive the agony and fear of me almost leaving the world the same way her brothers did. It was my friends that had to wonder what they should have said or should have done, frustrated with the fact that retrospect is 2020. Mental illness does not affect only those who are diagnosed. And it is I, the girl that seemingly has everything, that sits in my bed in the middle of the night and cries on the select nights when I fall towards oblivion and feel as though my last spark is being suffocated by my very own existence. I stay awake all night, silently sobbing, curled up in my covers like a bud before it blooms. I pray to a God that I'm not even sure I believe in, to either wipe the burden that is my life off this earth or to wake me up from my nightmare. I think back to those who told me not to speak of where I had gone, what I have been through, who I have become. They acted as if blind faith and some motivation would make me better. But guess what? It didn't. I've learned that what was wrong with me was not a flaw in character, but in chemistry. For years, my ground was molasses, pulling me down and dragging me. The air I breathe is smoke, every day causing me to cough until I cry. I am in a constant battle with myself, with razor blades, with the world. I may just be a single ash, but as we all know, a single ember can start a raging fire, and that is what I intend to do.
Thank you, Katie. Kevin Early is a This Is My Brave board member. I met him several years ago at a bipolar support group. I had read his father's book, Crazy, A Father's Journey Through America's Mental Health Madness, but didn't realize for some time that Kevin was actually the subject of the book. I'm a fan, both of his dedication to giving back and his rapping talents. He has independently released 12 albums over the last 8 years, working with underground hip-hop legends such as The Witch Doctor and Micah 9. As a peer-to-peer specialist, he helps the mentally ill in Fairfax County. He works with police departments to help them better understand how to interact with people with mental illnesses. Kevin will perform his original rap song, Brave.
Music is my release. It is more than therapeutic to me. It is a tool I use to program my brain with songs, and my brain and memory become a natural iPod. When I am at work, when I am daydreaming, when I'm doing daily routine tasks, I have a playlist in my brain that I can listen to in my head to invoke any mood I desire. If I am sad, there are songs that can lift my spirits just by listening to them. There are songs that can motivate me and make me want to be a better person. Music is freedom, it is joy, it is inspiration. When I am making music, I am in a magical realm where I'm drawing from the innermost parts of my soul, and to share a song with you is to put a piece of me on display. I live for my music. Rap music to me has always been about the release of stress and frustration, as energy that could potentially be put into a negative action is then instead channeled into song and becomes divine. I pay attention to the cadence of a rapper. I listen to the way he or she articulates their story, and I feel empathy as if I am now experiencing what they have experienced. This song is about my experiences with mental illness, an experience that has happened to me, but also one that I will not let define me. I am more than my mental illness. Hopefully, when you listen to my song, you will feel closer to what it is like to walk in my shoes.
This is my testimony, this is my brave, this is the receipt for everything that I gave. This is when I was committed, I couldn't behave. This is how I recovered, this is how I was saved. This is my testimony, this is my brave, this is the receipt for everything that I gave. This is when I was committed, I couldn't behave. This is how I recovered, this is how I was saved. I could be anyone in your family tree. When you see your brother, your uncle, you see me. I couldn't be who I am today without community, housing, and opportunity. It's all part of recovery. 1 in 4 adults deal with some sort of form of mental illness in their lifetime. It's the new norm. Still, it's hard to gain support when your mind feels like it is at war and you're inside a psych ward. So I speak out to the people I can reach, teach about mental illness. Each story is unique. I'm not ashamed of everything I've been through. It's not in vain. Even if the struggle must continue, it's not a game. This is my brave, this is my life, a tidal wave. This is the light that shines the way a brighter day. I know for everything I gave, I've got a price to pay. This is my redemption song, I can't blame society. This is my testimony, this is my brave, this is the receipt for everything that I gave. This is when I was committed, I couldn't behave. This is how I recovered, this is how I was saved. This is my testimony, this is my brave, this is the receipt for everything that I gave. This is when I was committed, I couldn't behave. This is how I recovered, this is how I was saved. How would you feel if every day you had to take a pill in addition to finding ways to pay your bills? If you've got a voice inside your head you're talking to, it's hard to keep a job. I'm just keeping it real. Some people rob and steal just to eat a decent meal, but the vast majority don't feel the need to kill. You see us on the news, you might get it misconstrued. Only a few turn into shooters. Condolences to the families. I don't know what you're going through, but my heart goes out to you because they know not what they do. We need to talk about it from a unique point of view. As a society, these issues seem to divide us in two. How would you feel if these are the cards that were dealt? It's easier to get a gun than proper mental health. Stigma everywhere, everybody out for self. Situations feeling like you can't find a way out. This is my testimony, this is my brave, this is the receipt for everything that I gave. This is when I was committed, I couldn't behave. This is how I recovered, this is how I was saved. This is my testimony, this is my brave, this is the receipt for everything that I gave. This is when I was committed, I couldn't behave. This is how I recovered, this is how I was saved.
That was really great, Kevin. And it was so special that you wrote it for this day today. And I think some of the clapping may be because he's the only male in an all-female cast. And I just have to say, he held his own. So up next is Nicole Gravy. She's 29 years old and lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with her grandfather and their trusty guard dog, Buffy. She's working towards a Master of Social Work at Millersville University, which she hopes will help her to be a voice for the oppressed. Although Nick suffers from mental illness, she does not let it define her. She may have OCD, but she also has blue eyes, a sense of humor, and really nice feet. Or so she tells me. Nicole is going to read her essay, Bright Before Me.
My sister wrote that bio, and I do have nice feet. Thanks to genetics, I was born anxious. I was a terribly shy kid. I threw up on the first day of first grade and hid under the table when people sang to me on my birthday. I experienced my first symptoms of OCD in 4th grade when I became terrified of tick-borne illnesses and worried that my family was going to die. I would reassure myself, but then thought that perhaps I had jinxed it, so I carried a piece of mulch around so I could easily knock on wood with no one noticing. Even then, I knew to hide it. In middle school and high school, my anxiety caused me to vomit before every event, no matter how trivial: tests, basketball games, and tennis lessons. The summer before college, I was lying in bed at the beach and had my first panic attack. I thought I was dying but didn't wake my parents. Instead, every few minutes, I looked in the mirror to check if my lips were blue. That was also the day that my hair started to fall out in large clumps. I spent the rest of the summer convinced I was terminally ill from a myriad of diseases and afraid to leave the house. Needless to say, my first week of college at American University was difficult. Thankfully, my mom came to get me that first weekend, and we went right to my family doctor. I thought I could feel a brain tumor. Turns out it was my skull. I also thought I had a tremor, and then I could see melanoma growing before my very eyes. After telling the doctor all of my physical symptoms, she put me on Paxil. About a week later, I realized I could brush my hair again, and from then on, I loved college and met many people much weirder than myself. They're sitting right there. A month before I was supposed to start my dream grad school program at GW, I was broke and felt homesick, so I moved back to PA. A snap decision, and one that I used to regret. I lacked a sense of purpose and was deeply afraid of being LGBT. I started to experience intrusive thoughts, depression, and suicidal ideation. I began to throw up on purpose, not to lose weight, but because it alleviated my overwhelming anxiety. It was a slippery slope. Since then, I've had a number of diagnoses come and go, and I've seen countless psychiatrists and therapists. Countless only because I'm too lazy to count them. At this point, I don't care so much what the label is or if I even have one at all. Though I understand why it's necessary, I find the whole process to be extremely limiting. I have been in the hospital 7 times and completed a partial program 3 times, and I stopped keeping track of all the different meds I've tried after it reached 25 or so. So that's the tough stuff, but really, if you look hard enough, you can find humor in my story. There was a time when I was blow-drying my hair and saw white stuff attached to the strands. Being like that superhero cartoon you may have seen on Facebook, anxiety girl able to jump to the worst conclusion in a single bound, and having WebMD memorized, I immediately assumed I had gotten the beginnings of lice from one of the kids I was working with at the time. So I promptly freaked out, called in sick, did the shampoo, and washed everything. Cleaning was my first priority and took all day, so I didn't get to go to the doctor until the following day. Being the rational humans that you are, I'm sure you've realized now that I wasted my precious paid time off for dandruff, quite possibly the world's most dramatic overreaction. The doctor said he didn't know what to put on the walkout slip, anxiety or dry skin. Then there was the time when my therapist was sending me to the hospital. It took me probably 30 minutes to convince her I was capable of driving there myself, which felt very important to me. Sadly, my still new car made it approximately 20 feet. I broke down while still in the parking lot, and a different therapist had to push me back into a space. To quote the first CD I ever purchased, isn't it ironic? It was like 10,000 spoons when all I needed was a knife. That is just shit luck right there, and all you can do at that point is laugh at the absurdity of life. And hitchhike, which took all afternoon. Just kidding. And if you look hard enough, you can find blessings. I am lucky. I have always had access to insurance and providers. Too many people with mental illness end up homeless, on drugs, in prison, or worse yet, dead. Prisons are this nation's largest mental hospitals, and I feel free to share my experiences, which is a right not afforded to everyone because of the stigma still attached to mental health issues. This has to change. Also, I have an amazing support system. I am so fortunate to have loving family and friends. My sister is the better angel on my shoulder when I feel tempted to give up. My dog rescues me way more than we've ever rescued her, as I'm positive that one of the best antidotes to depression is coming home to a little furball jumping with joy. Thank you from every bit of my soul. I am so grateful and hopeful I will be able to pay it forward. I'm nearing 30, and as I reflect back on my 20s, clearly they didn't go as planned. I acquired debt, gained weight, lost friendships, missed opportunities, and worried my loved ones. Mental illness truly depleted my self-confidence, and I compare myself to my peers and feel behind in many ways. It does get me down occasionally, but most times I feel glad for my journey. Screw conformity. It hasn't been easy, and I know I will likely struggle at times in the future, but I wouldn't change much. If my experiences are helping me to be a more compassionate citizen of the earth, then it's worth it. And I'd like to share one of my favorite quotes. It's, "Be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Tracy Thompson is a former newspaper reporter turned freelance writer-editor who got talked into auditioning for this enterprise by a friend, and Devra, wherever you are, you know who you are. Much like the Russian spy Carrie Russell plays on TV, she leads two lives, one of which is lived incognito as a mom in the suburbs of D.C., where she is married to a genuine NASA rocket scientist and pursues her hobbies of driving teenagers around and picking up their clothes off the floor. In her professional life, you need to check her out on Amazon, as she is an award-winning journalist who has written 3 books, 2 on the subject of mental illness. Her most recent book, The New Mind of the South, was published last year by Simon & Schuster and has just come out in paperback. Tracy will be reading her essay, Balm.
I have anxiety. Sometimes it's the worst part of this deal, this slow awakening from depression. Electroshock therapy will cure depression, but what they don't tell you is that it will burn holes in your memory, and that waking up from it is like waking up from surgery without morphine. It's like a fire smoldering in your brain, something wrong with the wiring that doesn't shut down the apparatus. Oh no, if anything, it makes it speed up. But if anything, it gives it more to do than can possibly be done. It feels like a mental burn. You can't forget it for a second. It's with you always, like acid on exposed nerve endings. All you crave is relief. This is why people drink. It's why they do drugs. So this morning I woke up and I felt it descend again, this constant companion of mine, and I was getting ready to go to the gym. I thought exercise might help. Sometimes physical activity does help. Sometimes exercise to the point of exhaustion is the only thing that will help. I was going to take my oldest daughter with me. We had the gym bag packed. She was downstairs, ready to go, and I was tidying up obsessively, making the bed, folding the blankets, plumping pillows, because that's one thing that I do when I have this affliction. I feel the need to try to control every element of my environment. And the more I fail, the more I feel compelled to try. And no, don't ask me to color with you or tell me your stupid knock-knock joke. Don't you understand? The linens must be folded. But this time, for some reason, it was different. This time, something just snapped. I fell across the bed. I cannot do this anymore, I thought. That was it for a moment. No other thought occurred. I rolled over to my side. My mind, which had stopped stopped in the middle of its frantic busyness, began to pick up speed again, but slower. Fortunately, my husband and I had been watching a James Bond movie the night before, Casino Royale, and that intricate plot became my next obsession, taking my mind off myself for a moment. I began to worry it, working out every nuance, making connections, gnawing on it like a dog with an old pork chop. After a while, I became aware of the fact that I was getting cold, and I grabbed a blanket from the foot of the bed and covered myself and lay down again. My mind slowed some more. Outside, I could hear the rain. I heard birds, at least 3 different kinds of bird calls. I listened to the birds. I listened to the rain. I said to the cosmos, help. All the time I was expecting my daughter to come bursting in, or for my husband to trek upstairs and see what in the world had happened to me, but nobody came. The house was quiet. I lay there some more, and slowly the mental burn subsided, and my mind's white-hot activity ebbed. The birds were talking to the sky, talking to each other. I lay there and I listened. After a while, the rain picked up, and the drops fell faster and faster, and then, after some indeterminate period, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I felt not healed. That's too much to ask. Only fairy tales work that way. But more whole. I felt calm. I went downstairs, and my family was there. My husband said, I thought you needed to sleep. My oldest daughter said, Mom, I made finger sandwiches. And my 6-year-old came up to me and put her arms around my waist and said, Mommy, snuggle. And I said to the cosmos, thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Olivia Maran graduated with a degree in digital video and cinema from James Madison University last May and currently works on the video team at NPR Music. When she was 17, she had a manic episode that earned her 2 weeks in a mental hospital and the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. With no family history or past trauma, Olivia likes to think of herself as a living example of how mental illness truly does not discriminate. Now 23, she's been 5 years episode-free and never hidden her diagnosis. She chooses to view it as a gift. Olivia will be reading her poem, Letter to Myself, 5 years ago.
Okay. Through the hospital window, the world has fallen white. You are about to go outside for the first time in 15 days. Swollen with bullet points and pamphlets, why me is every third thought. You hear this is not an inheritance, that this is not your fault. Mom signals it's time to leave. Outside, the snow continues to crowd and thicken, making those first few steps indelible. As if suspended underwater for weeks, now that you're finally back, dripping wet, breathing again, people won't stop staring, searching for your pruned-up skin, your wrinkled mind. People won't stop looking concerned. In the same way our ears form question marks and stick mysteries to our minds, our brains are full of fragile knots. They can get too loose or too tight and unleash or squeeze out normality. You are now freshly numb from your detangling, and it's hard. A few weeks later, in a high school hallway, below senior portraits smiling their promising futures, a smart man will tell you, this will get better. His sun-spot hands held open as reasons to believe him. Empathy is rare and refreshing. No matter what you think, he'll say, this will get better. You will graduate high school with the highest of honors. You will go to college. You will order pizza after 2 a.m. You will learn how to make a casserole. You will take a road trip across the United States with your best friends. You will party late in Prague. You will fall in love. You will fall out of love. You will learn how to trim fruit trees properly. You will learn to make movies. You will try to smoke cigarettes. You will learn how to focus and how to white balance. You will graduate college. You will travel months on trains through Europe. You will learn what a hero is in a 5'4" Italian man, Angelo, who you will live with for a month while working on a saffron farm. You will skinny dip in the waters of Colorado, Croatia, Italy, Spain, and Texas. You will laugh so hard your cheeks hurt hours later. You will cry so loud people will hear it through your shower. You will help out friends and not just be helped. You will refuse to say broken. You will get better. This is what I wish I had known. A diagnosis is not a life sentence. And after every snow, there is always a melting. It becomes less of the everyday, until the time when it's only a thought, when you take your 3 light orange pills once a day, keeping your knots and spirits in line. But there are still some nights, some rare nights, when I sit and think about you and me 5 years ago. Leaving that hospital you had lived in for 2 weeks, about all you'd been through, about that all I will still go through, about all the others who have and will go through the same. How we go crazy. And I do cry a little, but just a little.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Alicia Green is a wife, mother, and television producer. She's written more than 40 documentary films on topics ranging from shark attacks to illegal immigration. This is the first time, usually other people read her writing aloud, but this is the first time she'll be doing it herself. However, we've told her, as Maggie Kuhn said, speak your mind even if your voice shakes. Alicia's piece is from her upcoming book, Coach Me, Can a Team of Coaches Get Me Out of Debt and Into My Skinny Jeans? Alicia will read her essay, Losing Control.
In my line of work, one thing is paramount. You must stay in control. I'm a TV producer, and for years I choreographed live newscasts from a command center with a telling name, the control room. When I left news for documentary filmmaking, I stayed firmly in control, leading camera crews through maximum security prisons and mosquito-infested jungles. But 4 years ago, a series of ordinary events sent me down a path on which I lost control. Within 3 months, I lost my job, had my second child, and moved. Despite C-section stitches and relentless stress, I survived those months with my family and my sanity intact. But the night after our move broke me. My breast milk supply was low, so my hungry infant woke up every 20 minutes. The next morning, something in my brain was different. Standing at the bottom of our new staircase, I thought, I cannot possibly get to the top. I climbed them anyway, the same way I'd marched through the previous months. That same week, I took my older child to an event that always made me giddy with happiness, a Mayfair at our neighborhood park. I loved seeing my daughter delight in the simple pleasures of pony rides and balloon canopies. But that year, I couldn't summon the slightest bit of joy. Instead, I cried, quietly and discreetly. I knew some of the symptoms of postpartum depression: difficulty getting out of bed, trouble bonding with your baby, onset within 3 months of birth. None of it fit. I called my obstetrician anyway. I told him it was likely the stress of moving, and with some rest I'd feel like myself again. I convinced him I had everything under control. Then thoughts started coming. As I bathed my daughter, the first one bolted in. I hope there are no demons in there. Then it was gone, like the flash of a strobe light. I hoped it was a fluke, a bizarre occurrence that was unnerving but not unsafe. Unfortunately, it was both. The next time I was lying in bed, staring at our bedroom door. Another flash, the molding is a crucifix. Later, I noticed a closet door ajar. Flash, a ghost must have opened it. There were other dark thoughts, ones I'm still too ashamed to admit. But that day, I had the presence of mind to go to my husband and mother and confess I needed help. Within hours, I was sitting in front of a psychiatrist who specializes in postpartum problems. Would you like to know how many indicators your doctor thought you had for postpartum depression? Dr. B asked. None, she said. We can usually predict who will have trouble after childbirth. You were not a candidate. It was the most reassuring and disappointing thing she could have said. I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety disorder, or PPA, one of 6 postpartum mood disorders. All 6 are often labeled postpartum depression, but as any woman who's dealt one of these illnesses will attest, the distinctions are important. A mother who's depressed may not be able to get out of bed, while one who's anxious appears to be functioning fairly well. I left the psychiatrist's office with 2 things: a prescription for antidepressants and an eggplant purple bottle labeled Zyprexa. Dr. B said, "Oh, and whatever you do, don't Google that. You'll only be on it for a few weeks anyway." But one of the hardest things about mental illness is that there is no predictable treatment plan. As I took those drugs for weeks, then months, I kept asking, when will I be done? When will I be cured? The answer was always the same. If you had diabetes, you'd take insulin, wouldn't you? I would, but I'd also have a formula to determine my dosage. With my brain, there were no such certainties, just educated guesses. For a control freak, that was maddening. I ended up taking Zyprexa for 6 months and antidepressants for 3 years. I weaned off the latter only after 3 failed attempts. Recently, I summoned the courage to Google Zyprexa. It's an antipsychotic used to treat bipolar and schizophrenia. I'm glad I didn't know. By following doctor's orders, I realized I relinquished control for my good and the good of my family. Today, I have an expired half bottle of Zyprexa locked away on a high shelf. Sometimes I pick it up to throw it away, but I always put it back. It reminds me that there are things I can control and things I can't. It reminds me that there are people who can help if I feel unsteady. Most importantly, it reminds me that I was there, and now I'm here. And for that, I am grateful.
Thanks so much, Alicia. Next up is Ruthie Parrot, and she lives in Ashburn, Virginia, my now hometown. And she works at AC Moore and Jersey Mike's. So I know some of you in the audience are from Ashburn, so next time you go in there, and I know many of you shop at AC Moore, you can now say hi to Ruthie. She's a student at the Maryland Institute College of Art, majoring in video and film. She's accompanied on the ukulele by her friend Romy Smith, and she will sing the song Honest Songs.
The first time I tried to kill myself, I was a freshman in high school. I was admitted into a hospital and was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. That was also the first time I realized the reality of my illness. I had always known I was different, and that made me think something was wrong with me. I can think back to before high school and find signs of my anxiety and depression, and sometimes that makes me sad. But since then, I realized how much I've grown, and that my anxiety and depression may have felt like a weakness at one point, but now I know they are a sign of my strength. My everyday baseline anxiety is at a level that most people could hardly stand, but that's what makes me feel brave and strong. My anxiety and depression are the pieces of my life that enable the beauty that's in front of me every day, the love and support I receive from my family and friends, and the stars and the moon in the sky. Without my illness, I don't think I'd be the loving and empathetic person I am today, and for that, I'm so grateful. I'm going to sing the song Honest Song by Noah Gunderson. This song touches on what it's like to live with mental illness and not wanting to get out of bed every day, all the hours we have wasted, but yet with the turning of the seasons, we will always see the sun, and the sound it makes is an honest song. As we gather around the table to say a prayer for those we love, all the words that will be spoken, they will never be enough to encompass all the feelings that our brittle hearts can bear, all the storms that rage inside us, fill our organs up with air, and the sound it makes is an honest song. Our hearts sing an honest song. All the time spent catching raindrops, all the time we've spent in bed, all the hours we have wasted, we will never see again. So be good with what you're given, for it's all you have to give. We are only passing shadows in a mighty wind, and the sound it makes is an honest song. Our hearts sing an honest song. So though I tremble in the darkness, in the cold and frozen snow, I am grateful for the winter comes to show that our trouble's never over and our work is never done. But with the turning of the season, we will always see the sun, and the sound it makes is an honest song. Our hearts sing an honest song. Oh, may our hearts sing an honest song.
Thank you so much, Ruthie and Romy. Olivia Heimall is a mom to 2 young children. When she's not changing diapers and conquering phobias, she can be found on her laptop writing parenting articles and young adult novels. Her 5-year plan involves publishing her books, taking the kids to the zoo solo, and maybe having a clean house. But the clean house can definitely wait. Olivia's piece is about agoraphobia, an intense fear and anxiety of any place or situation where escape might be difficult, leading to avoidance of such situations. Agoraphobia affects 1 in 100 people. Olivia will read her essay, My Life Shrinking Problem.
My entire world shrank when I was 23. And yes, I realize putting it this way makes it sound like something out of Alice in Wonderland, but actually, jumping down the rabbit hole is exactly what it felt like. My world first shrank after a nasty bout of the stomach bug. The overwhelming thought I had after its violent onset was to thank the stars I had been at home when it hit. That was the seed of my disordered thinking, the core of my life-altering trip down the rabbit hole. A month later, on the trolley, I started coming down with a stomach bug again, or so I thought. No, I didn't actually throw up or soil myself or pass out, but I was about to any second. I was shaking, I was lightheaded, I was extremely nauseous. My bowels were spasming in the exact way they had when I was sick. I was frantic, terrified, confused, and 100% convinced that I was unsafe and something terrible was happening to me. When I tried to recall it later, I didn't have the right words to describe it. Now I know the right term is panic attack. It was traumatic, even though nothing bad had actually happened to me. I would do anything to avoid that feeling in the future. But it was basically impossible to avoid, although I tried. I pulled the edges of my life in, shrinking it, compressing it, trying to define my safe zone and stay within it. My transformation from well-adjusted person to almost complete shut-in took no more than a month. This is what I mean when I say my life shrank. I have a visual that goes along with this idea. So, a healthy individual has the zone in which she lives most of her life. Picture a map. In the center is her house, and over here, maybe 40 minutes away, is her work. And this whole surrounding area is super familiar and sunshiny. And outside this large safe zone is maybe just a bit foggier for this person because she doesn't know every road or landmark. I visualize that as being out of focus, but still perfectly well lit and safe. The whole globe could be like this for a healthy person. She doesn't think twice about driving 40 minutes each way to work. She doesn't check her smartphone every couple minutes to make sure there's no traffic. She doesn't pray and invoke strange rituals to keep the light green so she doesn't have to stop trapped in between cars, unable to leave. But I did all these things. Let me paint a picture of my comfort zone as a sufferer of panic disorder with agoraphobia, which is the real name of my obsessions and pain and life-shrinking problem. So here's my house. 10 minutes away is my job. Except we have to zoom in, way in. For now, let's just focus on the house. The bathroom is on the top floor, and as I'm sure you know, the stomach bug can hit at any minute, so it's best to stay close to the bathroom. In fact, you should maybe not get too comfortable under your covers in case you need to jump out of bed. So this is my safe zone. The space between my bed and my toilet. That was it. And that's not even safe because I still had panic attacks. My safe zone didn't look like a well-adjusted person's either. Outside my shrunken world of my house, it's black. Beyond the 10-minute drive to work, it's shrouded in fog. And there were rules I lived by to cope. Don't go out alone. Never again on public transportation that's completely unsafe. Nowhere I'd have to wait in line. Stay near the bathroom. Don't go where there was only a one-seater bathroom in case someone else monopolizes it. When forced to travel by car, keep the air conditioning on high or the window down to keep from passing out. Go to the bathroom before you leave the house. Empty both bladder and bowels. It's absolutely crucial that this be the last thing you do before you leave. If you have a long car trip, fast for hours on end beforehand so there's no food in your digestive tract. Ditto on the water. My bathroom trips became increasingly compulsive. I would run up and down the stairs of my house multiple times at the mere mention of needing to leave. This was my shrunken life. It was excruciating, it was unmanageable, it was the worst. My life now is mostly better. I still need a safe person to go new places with me. I still don't have fun in crowded places, but I can drive my kid to school. I can sit in a restaurant. I can be in the car. My life is about trying not to let my safe zone shrink. It's about not letting my fear control me. It's about teaching my kids to be brave and that it's okay to get help when you need it. It's about promising myself never to let it get that bad again. It's about enjoying the things that I enjoy and bearing the things that I don't. It's about sharing my struggles. It's about being brave.
Thanks, Olivia. Gabby Soler, a 16-year-old sophomore in high school, is from McLean, Virginia. Her passions include writing and singing. This is the first time she'll openly talk about her struggles. Her biggest inspiration is the singer Demi Lovato. Gabby's goal in life is to be a mother that her children can come to with anything, including similar things she has struggled with and is sharing with us today. Her poem is entitled Below the Surface.
Here's a riddle for you. What do you call a pretty, popular, smart young woman with tons of potential that wants to end her life? Many say the answer is impossible. There's no such thing. But you're pretty, they'd say. What do you have to worry about? But you get good grades and you keep a smile on your face. What could possibly be wrong in your life? But you're popular. You don't have problems. You're just being dramatic. You have it all, except a peace of mind. But popping pills since 13 was never what I wanted. Battling depression since my childhood days was never what I asked for. Don't get me wrong, I had it all, still do, except my sanity was lost somewhere in those years, and I'm still trying to find it. Anxiety, depression, PTSD all describe me, but they don't define me. They define my past and what I've been through, what I'm overcoming. They don't define who I am, they define who I was. Depressed all the time, anxious, traumatized by something that happened when I was a little kid, maybe more than once. I don't remember, I block it out. At age 7, I remember hating myself for no reason and not being able to find the energy to get out of bed. By age 9, I was bullied in school all the way through age 14. 5 straight years of being told I wasn't good enough. When I was 12, it finally hit me. Rape victim was the category I fell under. Did this cause all of my depression and anxiety? The reason I couldn't stay in a room alone with a stranger or family member for long periods of time without tapping my foot and fidgeting constantly? I started to lose it, my last grip on reality. Because my reality was worse than most nightmares that people have after they watch a bad Law & Order SVU episode. Special Victims Unit? Special how? Special like they cause more nightmares after the TB isn't clicked off. People wake up thinking, oh, it was just a bad dream. But for some like me, those bad dreams are reality. And this bad dream wrecked me. That's just some background info because cut to the chase, I'm 16 years old, living in the mindset of someone double my age, standing up here telling my story to some strangers for the first time, glad they understand my pain. Around turning 16, I watched Kevin Breel's TED Talk, Confessions of a Depressed Comic, and realized that depression had so many different definitions to different people. But to me, depression is an inner demon I have to fight every godforsaken day because no one would do it for me. I learned that the hard way. And everything that has happened to me does not define who I am. It defines my journey as I discover myself. And it will drag me through dark places, but only to show me there's light in others and that it's worth the chase and the effort and the fight. I would be lying to you if I stood up here and told you I don't have bad days. I do, all the time. Days where the thought of facing anyone makes me sick to my stomach, where moving a muscle causes immediate exhaustion because I just can't do it. But then it hits me. In all honesty, I've gone through this much hell. I'm not giving up now. I have to keep my head up and my shit together because everything will get better if I make it that way. But nothing will get better if I don't find the energy to get out of bed. Someone I know once said to me, "We know you have a mental illness, but stop choosing every day to be so upset. Look at the positive side of things." I could have punched her. How am I supposed to do that when I feel like I'm being dragged down into hell by my feet and the devil isn't letting me go? Everything is gray and black. Why get out of bed when I can sleep? Why talk to people when I can dream of a better place I'd rather be? I had to convince myself that it was all worth the struggle and the self-doubt and the addiction to hating myself, that all the pain I go through was worth it in the end. And no offense to people that pray to God about their problems, but to me that seems silly because He won't change them. Good for you if you believe in your faith, but I gave up on that long ago. No higher power will make my life easier. The only person that can help me is myself. If the higher power gives you hope, stick with it or find something else. I've learned all of this and I'm only 16, but good for me that I know how awful life can be, and I've stuck it out for this long. No way in hell am I giving up anytime soon. So here's the riddle one more time. What do you call a pretty, popular, smart young woman with tons of potential that wants to end her life? Me. I'm a survivor and a fighter, and I'll fight for my right to happiness until the exhaustion kills me off. It'll take a lot to kill me off. Depression, being the main mental illness I struggle with, will never bring me down, nor will it keep me from finding the light that keeps me going. I won't let it for as long as I live, because the devil may be dragging me down and everyone may be telling me I'm not good enough, but I know in my heart that this is something I can, and this is something I will overcome.
Thank you, Gabby. Elena Martin is passionate about stomping out the stigma of mental illness. She's come all the way from Norfolk, Virginia, to be with us today. Elena recently completed a memoir about living with mental illness that she hopes will one day end up in the hands of someone who needs a little hope. She writes the blog Being Beautifully Bipolar at psychcentral.com. When not writing or trying to snag a literary agent, she is the girlfriend to a charming Navy sailor and is a loving pet parent to 2 big black dogs. Elena will read her essay, Anything is Possible.
I don't remember everything that happened the day I tried to kill myself. I went to work, I came home, I watched the 2008 vice presidential debate with my new roommate on her laptop with a tumbler of wine in my hand. I talked to my cousin quite happily on the phone with my feet dangling into the luminous pool that evening, had a couple cigarettes, and then I decided to die. I don't remember the doctors pumping my stomach to get out all the Xanax I had put in it. I don't remember them shoving a tube down my throat and into my lung to keep me alive. I remember waking up and my sister sitting next to the bed. It was her birthday. I was confused and sedated. I used my rusty skills at charades to ask for a pen and some paper. I asked her to take a picture of me, as if I wouldn't remember being in the intensive care unit. Much of it I don't. I keep that picture on my computer in a folder I named Bipolar. If you want to see what bipolar looks like, I can show you. It looks like cuff restraints on my wrists, a myriad of tubes coming across the bed and over my shoulder and taped into my mouth. It is a screen showing my heartbeat and blood pressure. It is a baby blue blanket and a hospital gown so big it has fallen off my shoulder. Tan skin, white and blue linens. I look small and uncomfortable. I don't look at that picture often. I can't. I keep it to remind me of where I have been, to remind me that anything is possible. Since that day until this, I do not trust my mind. I can sense when my brain is threatening to take a vacation. I can feel the buzz like the top of my head is coming off. Sometimes I jump around and I'm deliriously happy and agitated. Or maybe I sleep past noon. I don't eat. I think about guns and knives and pills. Anything is possible. I don't remember what happened the day I tried to kill myself. I wrote a note. And all I can picture is the mattress on the floor in my new apartment where I bent over white-lined paper. I think I told my sister I was sorry. I imagine I wrote something to my mother. The words are lost like sleep is lost when your daughter tries to kill herself. It's hard to imagine not knowing you're going to try to commit suicide, waking up oblivious, going about your day, making friends, enjoying life, then night falls, then it's over. I'd be lying if I said I never thought about killing myself again after that. I have bipolar disorder, and that is perhaps the biggest lie I could tell. But I don't think about it today. Those days are tucked neatly behind me. Today I worry about the future. I want to get married. I want to be a wonderful mother. I want to make my parents proud. I want to meet my brother's unborn children. I want to live long enough that my sister forgives me. October 2nd, 2008, that's the day I nearly lost my life. If I lived alone, I would be dead. If my roommate hadn't gone to the kitchen for a glass of water and found me lying unconscious on the linoleum floor, I would be dead. If she hadn't found the note I wrote while I downed fistfuls of pills, I would be dead. Death is that simple. Here I am, 5 years later, and I'm thankful for October 2nd, 2008, because without it, I wouldn't know the love that I do. I know that I'm good enough, even at my worst, that I am worthy of love and respect and gentleness and caring. I have a compassion for myself that I never had before. I know that it's okay to fail, to bow out, to simply not be up to it. I know what it means to live and to love, and I know how it feels to thank God every night for one more day because I almost wasn't here. Death is that simple. I've overdosed more than once. I've slit my wrist so badly I've needed stitches 3 times. I know how precarious life is, and though there may be bad days and mania and depression and hiccups and bumps, I want to live. I want to live. I know that no matter what happens, there are people who love me and will take care of me when I can't. I trust in them. They are my hope. I took a walk yesterday on a gorgeous fall day. The air was light, and there were a few leaves that had already made their voyage from lofty heights down to my feet. I smiled as the sunlight hit my face, and I thought how far I have come. Since that day that changed my life, so much has happened. I have moved 4 times from one coast to the other. I have seen my 2 best friends give birth to healthy babies. I have attended graduate school. I have fallen in love. I have seen my sister become a wife. I am stronger now. I am braver now. Today I am happy. It might not last. Tomorrow may be different. I know now that even if the darkness comes, so too will the light. It isn't an easy way to live, never knowing who you're going to be from one hour to the next. My moods are like a summer thunderstorm, unpredictable and charged. But today I am stable. I try not to cut. I don't throw up. I don't take too many pills. Instead, I write. I say things the only way I know how. I chain words together to form sentences. I lasso sentences around the moon. I don't remember what happened the day I tried to kill myself, but I do know why I will live. I will live because tomorrow could be better than today. I've come so far and I have so much farther to go. Anything is possible.
Thanks, Elena. Mary Leeart is a Jill of all trades who's called DC home for the last 16 years. After spending more than a decade teaching middle and high school mathematics, brave, Mary left the classroom to write curriculum and facilitate training for teachers in the DC and Baltimore City public schools. While she enjoys her work, her biggest passion is investing in the lives of those around her. She absolutely loves being able to help people make real and lasting changes in their lives and coaching them towards total health. As an Army brat and the youngest of 4 siblings, it has taken her a while to find her way, but she feels that she's finally pursuing her truest dreams and traveling the path that was intended for her. She's going to sing Out of My Head.
When I was in college, my bipolar disorder showed up. Although I didn't know what to call it at the time. It was like this kid, we'll call him Bipolar Pete. He pulled up in this car beside me, he opened the door and said, "Get in." I had no idea where I was headed or what I was getting into, but I started on a journey over which I had no control. Pete and I became very close. He was kind of like a boyfriend. Honestly, more like an abusive boyfriend. He knew just how to rip me up and tear me apart and bring me to my knees before I even knew what had happened. But just like any abusive relationship, everything could turn on a dime. In fact, with Pete by my side, I had some of the most wonderful times of my life. I felt that all was right with the world and there was nothing that could possibly go wrong. But the truth was that I was very sick and I needed help. For many years, that help came in the form of struggle. Struggle to find the right meds, to find the right therapist, the right psychiatrist. Struggle to get the right diagnosis. Finally, it came, bipolar II disorder. It has taken me many years, many hours of therapy, but I have finally come to a place where I feel that I am living a stable and fulfilling life. And one of the biggest keys to my success has been building a support network. I am literally surrounded by people who love me when I am at my most unlovable. And even though I know how deeply they care for me, I know that they'll never really truly understand. There's this one friend I have, when I call her with a problem, her favorite closing line of advice is, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." But when you're someone like me, who experiences life through a series of extreme ups and downs, that just isn't true. The truth is that I live life in daydreams, avoiding what is real. Because when you're lost in daydreams, you never have to feel. Distance was my comfort. I left the world behind. Found safety in illusion, escaped in my mind. But your eyes convinced me that I was wrong somehow. In them I saw the beauty of living here and now. You brought me out of my head for a while, so out of my head for just a little while, lying there in your bed and watching you smile, brought me out of my head for a while. Your tender arms surround me with a warmth I never knew. They pull me to the present. They pull me close to you. Our lips whisper secrets, our bodies intertwine, and something close to happy is suddenly mine. You brought me out of my head for a while, so out of my head for just a little while, lying there in your bed and watching you smile, brought me out of my head for a while. You woke me to a brilliant world I couldn't see, but I should have seen the signs right there in front of me. 'Cause a heart that is newly awake is a heart that can easily break. Now I'm out of my head for a while, so out of my head for just a little while, and I'm lying in bed and missing your smile. I'll be out of my head for a while. I live life in daydreams, avoiding what is real. 'Cause when you're lost in daydreams, you never have to feel.
Thanks so much, Mary. Following her diagnosis of bipolar, Jennifer Keeley Marshall found that reading other people's stories of overcoming mental illness inspired her to start blogging about her own journey. She wrote a first post on her blog, bipolarmomlife.com, in August of 2011. Jen continues to write about why she's grateful for her condition on her own blog, as well as being a regular contributor to the International Bipolar Foundation and postpartumprogress.com. Most importantly to today, Jen is the creator and founder of This Is My Brave. She will read her essay, My Mental Health Pride Parade.
I'll never forget the year my husband and I visited Key West for a mini vacation with friends. We were walking back to our hotel one sticky evening when the streets erupted with joyful noise. People dancing in extravagant costumes, expressing themselves with so much confidence and happiness, it was contagious. It was Gay Pride weekend, and everyone was invited to the party. I imagine opening up about having a mental illness for someone who has kept it hidden feels a little like a teen sitting down with his parents to tell them he is gay. Vulnerable, anxious, exposed. Part of me feels like it's no one's business to know that my brain goes haywire if I'm not medicated and haven't been getting enough sleep. And yet the other part of me has such a strong sense of pride for where I've been, what I've experienced, and how far I've come that I want it to be an acceptable conversation during a dinner party or with new friends. It isn't easy for me to talk about the fact that I live with the disease of the mind. Yet it's become my passion to encourage people to talk openly about their illness in an effort to dissolve the stigma that still surrounds mental health disorders. Bipolar is a part of what makes up who I am as a person. It's not all of me, but it's a big part of my life. And I'm proud of my ability to live successfully despite having it. I'm proud of who I am, and I shouldn't have to hide a particular part because people don't understand or appreciate this one unique part of me. I want to be like the taut, tanned, fabulous man I admired in a pink sequined Speedo and superhero cape, roller skating his way down Main Street in that Key West Gay Pride Parade. It was a beautiful moment that was celebrated with music, beads, hugs, and love. He's an individual who is proud of one of the things that make him, well, him. I want the world to know that I'm an individual too, with many different parts. And there are others just like me. In fact, a quarter of the individuals in our country alone are like me. 79 million people in the U.S. live with mental illness, to be exact. And when you put it in numbers, I don't feel so alone. Yet when mania slaps me in the face so hard that I am left trembling in a corner, unable to slow down the hundreds of thoughts buzzing behind my eyes, I do feel like the only person in the world at that moment. And I wonder, will it ever stop? Will I ever feel normal again? Or is this my new normal? The first time I became manic, I was at the height of my recruiting career. I was managing a portfolio of business that was a professional tilt-a-whirl of clients and candidates. Urgent needs demanded immediate solutions. I was constantly spinning and spinning. My mentor back then used to say that to be successful, you had to keep a fire in your belly. Well, that fire I had in mind apparently spread to my brain. One Friday morning, after sleeping less than 3 hours a night for an entire week, I began to unravel at the office. It was as if there were all these hidden secrets in the world and I was figuring them all out. I sparkled, giddy with excitement. Words couldn't fly out of my mouth fast enough, and I talked in circles, intent on reaching a point, yet never quite making sense. These feelings went on for 2 days, and by Sunday night, my mania had catapulted into psychosis. When you can see and hear Jesus speaking to you while watching an episode of Lost, the next step is for your husband to call 911. At the hospital, they drew my blood. They inserted a catheter since I hadn't gone to the bathroom in hours, yet telling the nurses I had to go, but refused to get up to do so. They even put me through an MRI the next day. I was sufficiently drugged up enough to lay calm on the table, pushed into the tunnel with magnets pummeling the rounded core of the machine that would show the doctor a picture of my broken brain. Despite all these tests, they couldn't reach a conclusion. I was admitted for a psychiatric evaluation. 3 nights in the psych ward, the rest of the week off work, and I was as good as new. At least I thought I was. But But just 10 days later, the lack of medication in my system gave way to another episode of psychosis, this time even more intense than the first. A few days before Christmas, I was clearly becoming manic, but it wasn't the totally sick of holiday shopping type mania. My husband consulted my father on the phone, and they both felt the best thing was to stick to our travel plans so they could get me help. Ben managed to get me down to Florida on an evening flight. Because of the dose of Klonopin he gave me, convinced me to take before we boarded, I flew under the radar. He kept a close watch on me, remaining stoic, even though I could tell how nervous he was. His composure was what got us to my parents, who were at the ready to do whatever they could to bring me back from my break in reality. We arrived Christmas Eve, and in my agitated state, I didn't sleep the entire night, delirious with the excitement of a 6-year-old waiting up for Santa. Only there wouldn't be any celebrating at our house the next day. Instead, my family would be dropping me off at the local psychiatric hospital. Another day, another psych ward. Only it just wasn't any other day. It was Christmas Day, 2005. Quite easily the worst day of my life. It would be 3 days before they took me home. My parents were able to get me an appointment with this noted psychiatrist. He was the first doctor to give us the preliminary diagnosis of bipolar disorder. I spent the following year in the darkest, most desolate place I've ever been in my life. I didn't know who I was anymore. My recruiting career came to a screeching halt when I wasn't able to function under the normal, everyday pressures of the job. I went from being the last person to leave the office to being the first one out the door when the clock hit 5. I was no longer a successful, smart, outgoing young woman. My personality crumbled along with my career. I was trying to run from my anxiety, but it was always there, waiting to choke me with its grip and the tornado it caused in my gut. Work-life balance used to be my biggest challenge. Now the hardest part of my day was simply getting out of bed to take a shower. I didn't think I'd ever regain my confidence and wondered if I'd ever even work again. I left my high-paying recruiting job and took a part-time administrative job to pass the time as I focused on getting well. It was all I could handle, just barely. The longest year of my life was 2006. I never thought that I'd be able to make any good come of that year. I oftentimes wished I could just give up. I contemplated suicide. I wanted to end the pain of breathing, to stop the flood of tears I had cried, to make it all stop. I had had enough. Thank God my husband and my parents kept fighting for me. I had given up on fighting for myself. Finally, the right combination of medicine and a desire to get better brought me out of the darkness. I've come a long way since then. In the years following those first 2 manic episodes and hospitalizations, I lived a life where I hid my mental illness and all the pain I was going through. I hid it from my friends, my extended family, my colleagues at work. But what I realized from those years of burying my struggle was that I wasn't being true to myself. When I began to find my recovery path, I simultaneously found my voice as an advocate, and I knew I needed to use that voice so that others could find hope. I wrote to tell them that if I could do it, they could get well too. I'm a writer, and I've overcome mental illness. I share my story so that others can know that they are not alone. I want to show my kids that it's important to stand up for what they believe in. If not, then why are we here? I believe that having a mental illness should never stand in the way of anyone's dreams. I believe we need to educate the world about mental illnesses so that more friends and family, coworkers, and teachers can reach out to those who need help and get them the help that they need. I believe in standing up, showing up, and writing my way through living with a mental illness. It does not define me as a person. It's just one aspect of my life which has helped shape me into the woman I've turned out to be, a mental health advocate, and I'm pretty proud of her. I'm extremely proud of our debut cast, too. We may not be wearing pink sequin Speedos up here like that man in Key West, but these brave individuals up on stage with me today were vulnerable and authentic and real because they want to make a difference in this world. They each shared a piece of their life that you may not have known about, but today our cast stood up here on stage to inspire change. So that's why I believe This Is My Brave is my mental health pride parade.
Okay, don't go anywhere yet. They're leaving. Sorry. You'll get to meet them later. Okay, so thank you very much. We got through it. We're so happy you enjoyed the show, and the applause up here was so warm, and it just made us all feel great. Helped us all get through everything. So today we wouldn't have been possible without the help of many people who are in the audience today. We'd like to thank our supporters who launched us on Kickstarter, as they believed in our show when it was in its infancy and was really just a vision that we had. Thanks to our top sponsors, John Burke, Anne-Marie Lanius, Ryan Zook of Duellis, and Nick Gentile of Potomac Psychological Services, our therapist. Julie McCarter of Photoshoot Inc. has been so supportive. She took all the headshots of the cast, and she's still helping us today by taking shots. Besides being a great photographer, she's also a therapist who combines her talents to help her clients. And we love her. Jim Folliard of Gearshift TV has been so generous with his time and talents in video and production. If any of you saw the promo video, Jim's the one who put that together for us. That's great. We loved his green screen. Sorry. A couple more notes. Okay. So as we speak, our great volunteers from So What Else are preparing sweet treats, and NAMI of Northern Virginia has donated beverages for a reception in the lobby. We have a few activities to set up because it wasn't enough for Jen to just put on a show. We hope we have inspired some of you to be brave today. And in the lobby, you're going to find 2 cork boards that have a note on top of them called Brave Notes, and that we hope you'll share what your brave is today. We have a banner with our logo in the lobby, as I mentioned earlier, and we hope you'll take pictures there. And again, hashtag This Is My Brave. The cast will come out to the lobby, so you'll have time to meet them and then to take photos. Also, I want to say, if you parked in the other parking lot at the Artisphere, which you may have gotten lost getting over here, because Jen and I did twice, you need to get your ticket validated, and there'll be Jasmine, the event coordinator, will do that by the front door as you head out. If you parked in the garage where you just came up through the elevator into the lower lobby, you're fine. You don't need a validation.
Okay, last couple things. On your way out, our volunteers will be passing out This Is My Brave pledge cards. On the cards, this is a pledge, which is up on our website, and the cards are a gentle reminder to go to the site when you get home and sign the pledge. You'll be promising to stand up to stigma, be supportive when a friend or family member needs to talk about their mental health, and not judge a person based on their mental health diagnosis, but instead applaud them for their determination to overcome it. On the pledge page, you'll find a comment section on the website that we hope you'll use to share your stories of and experiences of living with or loving someone with a mental illness. The goal of This Is My Brave is to stop the stigma by sharing stories, to be brave, to inspire change. And one more thing, where do we go from here? And how do we continue to inspire change? First, we plan to post a video from the show today on YouTube, so hopefully by this summer, by June, those of you who, friends or family who weren't able to come can see it. Second, we hope to bring a version of This Is My Brave to local high schools and maybe even colleges during the next school year. And third, we have had such a tremendous response to This Is My Brave, and we are putting a call out to take it to other cities. So hopefully next year it'll grow and grow. So we'll be looking for your continued support and encouragement as we continue on this journey. Thank you again from the bottom of our hearts.